Imagine a prison so seductive that no one wants to leave. A system of control so effective, it doesn't use violence, it uses pleasure. This isn't science fiction. Aldous Huxley saw it coming nearly 100 years ago in his novel, Brave New World. In it, he described a future that wouldn't be dominated by chains or whips, but by endless entertainment, synthetic happiness, and comfort so constant that no one would even think about rebelling. And the scariest part? That future is now. See, Huxley understood something that very few people did in his time, or even today. Pleasure can be more powerful than pain. When people are having fun, they stop asking questions. They stop resisting. They stop thinking deeply, and slowly they stop being fully human. This is the story of how pleasure became the perfect method of control and how we're still living inside that golden cage today. How control became pleasant. Huxley made a chilling discovery about power, that rulers don't need to use fear or force to control people. They just need to keep us comfortable. In Brave New World, people aren't beaten down, they're anesthetized. They're not suffering, they're entertained. Endlessly. People in that world are constantly surrounded by distractions. Games, sex, noise, and a magical drug called soma, which eliminates sadness and anxiety instantly. But here's the catch. No one truly lives. No one grows, no one evolves. The trick lies in desensitization, numbing the human experience through stimulation. Constant entertainment acts like a fog, blinding people from reality. When your senses are flooded with games, shows, notifications, and noise, you lose the space to reflect. But Huxley realized something deeper than that. Pain often leads to revolution. When people suffer, they ask questions. They band together, they change things. But pleasure? Pleasure does the opposite. It isolates. Everyone ends up locked in their own little world, their own private feed, their own screen, their own distractions. It's like everyone's walking around with a golden cage, customized to their favorite music, games, content, food. And the most disturbing part? People choose the cage. No one's forcing you to binge Netflix, or scroll endlessly, or drown your anxiety in sugar, memes, or shopping carts. You do it because it feels good. And that's the genius of this system. It feels amazing. It doesn't look like control. It looks like freedom. It doesn't look like suffering. It looks like happiness. Who wouldn't want to be happy all the time? Who wouldn't want to avoid discomfort? But that's exactly what makes this so dangerous. Because this artificial happiness, this constant stream of dopamine, slowly kills something essential. It kills the ability to grow, to question, to feel anything deeper than surface-level joy. It creates not a society of free people, but a massive factory of consumers, addicted to fake feelings, the happiness factory. Modern society has become a machine for producing and selling synthetic emotions. And like any factory, it starts with raw material, you. Think about how subtle this system is. You watch an ad, and suddenly you need something you didn't even know existed a second ago. You see happy people using some product and it taps something inside you, a desire for that same joy, that same ease. But here's the catch. You buy the thing, and the feeling fades quickly, so you chase the next thing, and the next, and the next. Not every pleasure is bad. Watching a good movie, buying something useful, that's fine. The problem starts when those things become a constant escape, when silence becomes unbearable, when you need to be doing something at all times. When you can't sit alone with your thoughts, that's when you know pleasure has turned into prison. People's emotions get dulled because they never confront real difficulty. It's like a muscle that goes unused. It withers. And when you only feel shallow joy, you lose the ability to experience deeper emotions, courage, compassion, or even real love. This emotional flatness makes people easier to predict and easier to control. When you're sad, you reach for fun. When you're anxious, you distract yourself. When you're bored, you stimulate. You're running in circles, and the system knows exactly where you'll turn next. The rise of modern-day soma. Now let's talk about soma, the miracle drug from Brave New World. It fixed everything. Feeling sad? Take soma. Feeling anxious? Take soma. No side effects, no reflection required. Sound familiar? We may not have soma in a pill, but we have its modern equivalents. Social media, porn, consumerism, and even some overused medications. Let's start with your phone. When you feel lonely or insecure, what do? Scroll, tap, swipe. For a little while, you get that rush, likes, comments, notifications. The loneliness fades, but only temporarily. Soon it returns, stronger than before. Or take pornography. It offers instant satisfaction without intimacy, growth, or connection. But afterward, there's a void, a feeling that something meaningful was missed. Shopping is another hit of dopamine. New clothes, new tech, new car. It feels great for a moment. Then it fades, and you're left chasing the next fix. Even medications, while crucial for many, can become a modern soma when they're used to avoid uncomfortable emotions instead of addressing deeper issues. These pleasures all have something in common. They offer pain relief without growth. They patch the symptoms but don't heal the root. They make you feel good now, at the cost of feeling alive later. And that's what makes them dangerous. Voluntary slavery. There's a chilling idea that runs through all of this, something the French philosopher Etienne de la Boétie called voluntary servitude. People often choose slavery, not because they're forced, but because it's easier. Freedom is hard. It requires effort, discomfort, responsibility, but comfort feels safe. It's predictable, it's familiar, and that's how pleasure becomes an invisible chain. You're not being beaten into submission, you're enjoying your way into it. Think about it. When someone's addicted to chocolate, they know it's bad, but they can't stop because it tastes so good. Now imagine that same addiction, not to sweets, but to scrolling, consuming, distracting, constantly. But unlike chocolate, this addiction is socially accepted, even encouraged. The danger? It's subtle, because this prison looks like freedom. You can do whatever you want. Eat, watch, buy, post, swipe. You have choice. But here's the test. Can you not do it? Can you not check your phone for a day? Can you not buy something when you're feeling down? Can you sit in silence without reaching for stimulation? If you can't stop, it's not freedom. It's just slavery, with better branding. And here's where it gets even darker. The more we rely on pleasure to soothe us, the more emotionally fragile we become. We lose the ability to sit with discomfort, and that's a major problem. The rise of emotional fragility. Being alone with your thoughts shouldn't be a punishment, but for many, it feels unbearable. Silence feels like torture. Stillness feels like suffocation. And it's not just about being bored, it's about being dependent on external stimulation, on noise, on content, on distraction, to feel okay. This creates emotional dependency. A person loses the ability to regulate their inner world without some external fix. And when you lose that ability, you become incredibly easy to manipulate. Because now all someone has to do is offer you pleasure, a show, a sale, a shiny distraction, and you'll follow. That's why Huxley's vision is so terrifying. It's not about being forced into slavery, it's about choosing it over and over again, because it's more comfortable than the alternative. And that alternative is truth. The price of truth. Truth is messy, it's uncomfortable, it's inconvenient. It asks you to look at things, in yourself and in the world, that you'd rather not face. And that's why most people avoid it. They prefer illusion, because it's easier. It's easier to believe your marriage is fine than to confront its problems. It's easier to believe your habits are harmless than to admit you're addicted. It's easier to believe your life is meaningful because you're busy, even if you've never stopped to ask why. Illusion is like a warm blanket, comforting, familiar, safe. But here's the thing about illusions. They protect you from pain until they don't. Because pain that's ignored doesn't disappear. It builds up, it festers, it waits. And when it finally erupts, it hits harder and more destructively than if it had been faced earlier. That's why denial is such a dangerous kind of pleasure. It gives temporary relief at the cost of long-term growth. The ethical trap of comfort. Choosing illusion over truth isn't just a personal decision. It's an ethical one. Because when people avoid discomfort, when they choose not to see, they also choose to stay silent about things that matter. They become part of a system where appearance matters more than substance, where comfort is prioritized over justice. They stop asking questions like, why am I here? What really matters? How can I live more meaningfully? These questions are uncomfortable, but they're essential. And when they're ignored, we end up with a society that values convenience over conscience and pleasure over purpose. The worship of the body. Here's where the illusion goes even deeper. Throughout history, the human body was seen as sacred, a temple, a vessel, a bridge to something higher. But in today's world, the body has been reduced to an object of pleasure, a tool for stimulation, a final destination, not a doorway. This shift is dangerous. When the body becomes nothing more than a source of gratification, we become trapped in it, unable to see beyond our physical desires. We stop asking spiritual or philosophical questions. We stop exploring anything deeper than what feels good right now. It's like living in a beautiful mansion, but never stepping outside, never seeing the stars, never realizing there's a whole universe beyond the walls. The illusion of freedom. Carl Jung, the great psychologist, warned us, not all desire is freedom. Just because you want something doesn't mean you're free. In fact, most people are controlled by their desires. They think they're making choices, but really their impulses are choosing for them. Arthur Schopenhauer took it even further. He said that desire is the root of all suffering. When you want something and don't have it, you suffer. When you get it, the joy fades. Then you want something else, and the cycle repeats forever. That's not freedom, that's addiction, the murder of silence. And now, we arrive at what may be the most disturbing part of all, the murder of silence. Modern life is noisy, not just outside, but inside our minds. We're constantly fed with images, sounds, updates, opinions. Our brains are rarely, if ever, quiet. And that silence, that inner stillness, that's where the real transformation happens. Silence is where we hear the truth, our truth. It's where wisdom emerges, where healing begins, where freedom lives. But silence is also where the uncomfortable stuff shows up. Fears, regrets, memories, doubts. Which is why so many people run from it. They'd rather fill the void with content than face what's really there. But here's the paradox. The more we run from silence, the more lost we become. Because without it, we can't truly know ourselves. Mystics across traditions knew this. They sought silence because it stripped away illusions. And philosophers, from Socrates to Seneca, said reflection is the path to wisdom. But how can you reflect if your mind never stops? How can you discover anything real if you're always distracted? A simple practice to begin. Here's a practice. Start with just 5 minutes a day, no phone, no music, no distractions. Just sit with yourself, in silence. At first, it'll feel uncomfortable. That's good, because that discomfort shows you exactly how much you've relied on pleasure to avoid being present. That discomfort is the doorway, not the barrier. And on the other side of that doorway is freedom. So here we are, standing at the edge of the trap, holding the key. But how do we escape? How do we break free from a prison we willingly entered? And more importantly, how do we live fully without becoming monks, isolated from the world? The answer isn't to reject all pleasure. That's neither realistic nor healthy. The real answer is one word: awareness. Awareness is the space between impulse and action. It's what allows us to choose rather than react. It's what lets us ask in the moment, is this thing I'm about to do freeing me or trapping me? That moment of awareness is everything. Start here. The conscious pause. Before you pick up your phone, pause. Before you click add to cart, pause. Before you binge another show, pause. Just 10 seconds. That's all it takes. Ask yourself, why am I doing this? What feeling am I avoiding? Is this pleasure masking pain? That tiny pause rewires your brain. It interrupts the autopilot. It opens a window for choice. This is the first tool of liberation, and it's powerful. Practice. Pleasure fasts. Next, try a pleasure fast. Once a week, go without one thing you normally rely on for comfort. No social media, no background music, no sugar. no streaming. It doesn't matter what it is, only that it's something you usually reach for without thinking. Why do this? Because it reveals just how much we depend on stimulation to feel okay. It shows us our addictions, and once we see them, we can begin to loosen their grip. You're not punishing yourself, you're just reminding your nervous system that it doesn't need constant input to survive. You're reclaiming power. Reclaim nourishing pleasures. Not all pleasure is a trap. There's a massive difference between conscious pleasure and addictive pleasure. Conscious pleasure comes from presence, connection, simplicity. It doesn't leave you emptier afterward. It doesn't demand more and more. It doesn't numb you. It awakens you. Like walking in nature, or reading something that challenges you. These pleasures don't distract you from yourself. They bring you back to yourself. They connect, not isolate. They deepen, not flatten. They expand, not shrink. These are the pleasures that nourish the soul. Discomfort as a teacher. Instead of running from discomfort, start listening to it. Sadness, boredom, anxiety, loneliness. Ask, what is this feeling trying to teach me? What does it want me to see? Most people try to shut discomfort up as fast as possible. With food, phones, fun. But discomfort is a messenger. Sometimes it's telling you something's missing. Sometimes it's showing you a part of yourself you've ignored. Sometimes it's guiding you toward growth you've been avoiding. Treat discomfort like a wise friend, not an enemy, because real freedom isn't the absence of pain. It's the capacity to stay present with it. The awakening of the adult. Aldous Huxley warned us about the infantilization of adults, a society where grown people act like children because they've never learned to sit with difficulty. They want everything now. They get offended by everything. They throw tantrums when reality doesn't go their way. This isn't just annoying, it's dangerous, because a society full of emotional children is easy to control. They don't think critically. They don't act with courage. They don't ask big questions. They just want their candy, their pleasure, their escape. But you're not a child. You can choose depth over comfort. You can choose honesty over illusion. You can choose maturity over numbness. You can choose to grow up, spiritually, emotionally, and psychologically. The true revolution, inner freedom. Here's the most radical truth of all. If you can learn to be happy within, without needing constant stimulation, you become very difficult to control. What can a system sell you if you no longer need anything to feel whole? What can fear threaten you with if you've already made peace with discomfort? This is why real spirituality is so revolutionary. Not the sugar-coated kind that promises instant bliss, but the kind that walks you through the fire of your own illusions and helps you come out clearer, lighter, freer. The kind that teaches you to sit in silence until the noise fades. The kind that reminds you you are enough without the noise. So what now? Now we arrive at the final question, the one that can change everything. Does this free me or trap me? Ask it before you act. Ask it when you're tempted. Ask it when something feels good but also kind of hollow. And be honest. That one moment of honesty might be the first step toward a life that's truly yours, not one manufactured by algorithms, not one shaped by advertisers, not one built around the avoidance of pain, but one rooted in truth, one forged in silence, one alive with meaning, because in the end, one real, difficult, conscious life is worth more than 1,000 easy, artificial ones. The choice is always there. Sleep in the comfort of illusion, or wake up to the adventure of being truly human. You already know what to do. Now do it.